everyone. I hope you all had a great week. Hopefully some decent cashes in this last Sunday's main slate. Maybe, some big tournament wins or just a nice double up in cash games. I put up 129.3 points. That was good enough to cash in most double ups and 50-50s. So I think overall I'm pleased. I don't think I made too many massive mistakes. Now, I do think the one mistake I made, and I'll show you the tournament lineup once I get through this one, but I did make a change probably like 10 minutes before lock. I took out Duke Johnson and I put in DeAndre Swift. So it was announced that DeAndre Swift was going to see his first start of the year. And now, obviously, Adrian, we know that he's one of the best in terms of points per touch for this whole year so far. DeAndre Swift is right up there with Alvin Kamara in points per touch. So maybe I did have 100 on the table too, as it was. This lineup right here it's 100 short of 50,000, the salary cap. So I could have easily just taken out Duke, put in DeAndre Swift, and went from there. But I ended up not doing it. I only did it in my tournament lineups. I think that was definitely a mistake. I should have went Duke Johnson or taken out Duke Johnson and just put in Swift and all. Because Duke Johnson not in as good of a game environment as Swift. Even if Swift were to lose work at the goal line to Peterson or something, like if that would have happened, it still wouldn't have killed his score. He's still putting up solid scores. He had about 15 touches last week. So yeah, I think that's where I went wrong. And Swift obviously just pops up for a huge game. And Duke Johnson, this probably was the absolute floor that he could have had. He did not have any catches. I'm sure that surprised a lot of people. It surprised me, even though Deshaun Watson isn't notorious for checking the ball down. He's not notorious for doing that at all, but still you would expect at least maybe 2 or 3 catches, and that's just a great way on Draftkings, especially with a low-priced running back in the flex like this, just accumulate some points throughout the game. So he didn't get any catches at all. Definitely surprising. So other than that mistake, leaving Duke Johnson in there in that bad weather game, whether it was to the weather or not, I still think that DeAndre Swift was a better straight-up play. Kyler Murray, I'll just start at the top here. I was fortunate to get that Hail Mary at the end to DeAndre Hopkins. I did not own any DeAndre Hopkins, so it definitely helped some other people. I mean, you got to think how many people won and lost just thousands on that play. It's insane. But yeah, someone out there is going crazy celebrating that. But yeah, we have Kyler Murray, 30.9. I thought as I went through the week and then on Saturday, I realized the only thing keeping me from playing Kyler Murray was Brandon Cooks. So Brandon Cooks at 5,600. He wasn't, when you're already playing Duke Johnson in cash, not sure if you want 2 Texans in a bad weather game, especially given that Cooks, a lot of his production comes down the field. Maybe the weather hinders his ability to produce there, and Watson's ability to get him the ball. But he was still 5,600, so he was a great value. But I just felt like I could pencil in the points for Kyler Murray a lot easier, given that it's a cash game. So I'm not usually looking to pay up at quarterback in cash, but I feel like Kyler Murray has been a different breed this year. He's been a machine. He's essentially, he can still put up 100. Even if you just took his rushing numbers for some games, he's still putting up a fine floor, even if he wasn't even passing the ball. When he rushes in twice and gets 61 rushing yards, that's 18 points right there. So that's without even, passing the ball. So he's been fine through the air also, still throwing touchdowns. So I felt like I had to get Kyler Murray in because the difference was it was really coming down from Brandon Cooks to Jakeem Grant, and that got me Kyler Murray. So I said, you know what, yeah, I'm willing to do that. And I was fortunate to have Jakeem Grant here. He had that touchdown early, 3-yard touchdown. I was really playing him for the deep threat ability that he has. So yeah, just kind of fortunate, gets a 3-yard touchdown. Even though he's a smaller player, he still was able to get open. Tua got him the ball, so that made him a smash kind of immediately as soon as he caught that touchdown. 4 catches, kind of more than I was even expecting. Beyond that, probably the headline of the week is that, like Duke Johnson, Mike Davis definitely failed to get there. Probably put up the absolute floor that he could have. At least he had 4 catches, 12 yards. That pads his score a little bit, but 32 rushing yards. We knew getting into this play that the matchup was not good. Tampa Bay is great against the run, so the ceiling was probably capped on Mike Davis, but I still felt like 13 points would have been a solid score. But yeah, really just could not get anything going at all. So that's not. I'm not regretting playing Mike Davis at all, though. At 4,000, like, if I'm not playing him, I don't have any of these other guys like Devontae Adams, Keenan Allen, Kyler Murray. So I figured just play Mike Davis and just kind of forget about it. You just got to play him at 4,000, getting all of the work. Keenan Allen, I was kind of fortunate for him to get that late touchdown. He was pretty heavily owned on the slate as a whole. Pretty fortunate for that touchdown. But again, I'm not playing him for the touchdowns, so it doesn't feel like as much of a bailout. I feel like he probably ran bad throughout the game, only 3 catches for 39 yards, like his lowest output of the year with Justin Herbert. So, like someone like, if you compare his production to Tyler Lockett, Keenan gets his production through the air on massive volume and targets, whereas Tyler Lockett's like ceiling games have really come from multiple touchdowns. He did have 200 yards in the one game. But I feel like with Keenan, it's just more of a sure thing. And then Lockett, someone like him, you need the touchdowns for him to produce. Keenan, you don't. Just kind of turned out this week that's why, the reason why he still didn't even really get there, only 12.9 points, but still the touchdown helped his score a lot. But again, week in and week out, you're not playing him for the touchdown. So beyond that, Devontae Adams at 9,000, he was one of the first players into my lineup. I did not want to go without Devontae Adams this week. Was it wrong to play Adams with Aaron Jones? I don't think so. But it was pretty surprising to see Jamal Williams touch the ball as much as he did. And Jamal Williams was just 4,000. He didn't put up a great game in terms of like, ceiling numbers or anything like that. Like, he wasn't in play at 4,000. But I'm sure if people knew that he was going to get that kind of work, there probably would have been people playing Jamal Williams in tournaments for sure. And Aaron Jones just lost a ton of work to him. So yeah, that wasn't great to see. Kamara was only 1,100 more than him. Maybe that was a mistake by me, not getting up to Kamara. But I felt like Jones was in a great spot. I had no problem playing both him and Adams. They've both gone off together before. So I'm not sure if I'm really mad about the Aaron Jones play. I can probably be, again, maybe in tournaments I should have had more Alvin Kamara. That probably would have made sense. I think after the first quarter, though, Alvin Kamara, I'm not sure if he even touched the ball. So he just ends up getting there entirely. And it's not all, yeah, he did have 3 touchdowns, but he still doesn't need those touchdowns. He doesn't need multiple touchdowns to have a great game. He can get to 25 no problem without them. So that's just something to keep in mind there. Maybe Aaron Jones was more of a thin play than I thought at 70, but at 7,100 it just felt kind of cheap. So, and then moving down, Dallas Goedert, I thought there was just no way I was playing anyone else. 4,200, I felt like this would probably be the cheapest he would be moving forward. He was more expensive on FanDuel, higher priced as a percentage of the salary cap. So I think overall this was a fine play. 4 catches, 33 yards. Tight end's been a wasteland this year. There was no Kittle on the slate. He's been hurt. There was no Travis Kelce. The only one that you'd pay up for is Darren Waller, but that's 5,900. So, I was fine just going with Goddard. Maybe Gesicki at 4,300. But that's as far as I was willing to go. I just figured play Dallas Goedert and forget about it. And then Duke Johnson, as I was talking about before. So, yeah, that's essentially how this went. And then I had the Raiders defense, lucky for them to get 16. I was confident playing them against Drew Lock. Game in the division. Drew Lock coming off of, a lot of that's been he's feasted in garbage time. So I was fine playing the Raiders defense. It just kind of fit in. But, again, I did have 100 more on the table. Would have been great to get up to DeAndre Swift and just plug him in. But now I'll go over to my best tournament lineup that I had. So this year was my best performing lineup of the week. Kyler Murray. So you can see it's essentially my cash lineup, but we get DeAndre Swift in there, and then we get Kamara with the correlation play with the defense there. So I think this lineup, 158.3 points. Nothing to be mad about there. Brandon Cooks, 9.9. Jakeem Grant, same thing. Christian Kirk doesn't get there. Had him stacked with Kyler Murray. But yeah, overall, it just shows really if you got Kamara in and Swift, it shows really like you were right on it if you had those guys there. So yeah, that's essentially how it went for the week for me. Pretty good overall. Did well in cash. So now I want to do a first look at this week coming up and see what's standing out so far. Okay, so I have the main slate for week 11 pulled up now. Lamar Jackson priced at the top. 7,300 is the most expensive quarterback. We've seen Kyler Murray this past week. He was 8,000. Felt maybe like he was priced correctly at the time, but then when the value opened up, it was pretty easy to get to Kyler Murray. Not sure what kind of value we're going to get this week. I'm sure people will be playing him. He's playing Tennessee. They have not been great as a defense overall, but the thing is, Lamar Jackson has not been the same player that he was last year. It seemed like they've been trying to get him loose these last few weeks. 11 carries, 13 carries, 16 carries. So that's fine, but the thing is, there hasn't been that production through the air. That's why Kyler Murray has been a cut above everyone else. He's doing it both ways, and it's really Lamar Jackson last year, but he's been even better, believe it or not. So yeah, so still at quarterback, Drew Brees probably out. Maybe Jameis Winston. At this point, maybe he helps Michael Thomas and helps that entire offense. At least in terms of fantasy points, someone that throws the ball down the field is always good. And last year, even Winston's pick sixes or turnovers, they actually ended up helping the fantasy output of Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, because it's just creates a higher scoring environment. When they're trailing, he's going to have to throw the ball. So that's maybe some of that translates to success for Michael Thomas or even Alvin Kamara, but Kamara's good in his own right. Tua's down here at 58 against Denver. Carson Wentz just keeps, at 5,700 down. Anyone goes that low. Joe Burrow against Washington. That pass rush is pretty good. Good D line. And the Bengals offensive line has not been good. So maybe that's probably can't go that low. Matt Ryan, 6,300 at New Orleans in that dome. If Winston's throwing, maybe that game could come in at a pretty high total. And, maybe we get a nice offensive, shootout. Deshaun Watson, 6,500 against New England. Seems kind of, Watson's not usually priced. I think he was up to 7,100 as of, 69, 71, 68, 7,000. So this will be the cheapest he's been in a little bit. So maybe that garners some attention there. Cam Newton against Houston in the same game. Justin and Herbert against the Jets. So I could see that for sure being a popular spot. And at 6,800, would people rather just play Rodgers against Indianapolis? But again, I'm not sure in general if people are going to be paying up at quarterback this week. Ryan Tannehill's down here at 6,100. He's usually pretty cheap, and he can put up a solid game here and there offers a decent ceiling at that price. Phillip Rivers down here 5,600 against Green Bay. So, I don't think all of interest there. But again, we'll see what kind of value we get. So for the running backs on the main slate, Christian McCaffrey, maybe he suits up. He's priced at 9,400 against Detroit, and they are at home. So I'm sure he would get a ton of ownership, and maybe he ends up being a cash game staple. But actually, this big three here at the top, Dalvin Cook, Alvin Kamara, Christian McCaffrey, all priced up 9,000 and above. Dalvin Cook against Dallas, that already feels like, just looking at it right away, I would expect a lot of ownership on that. Dallas has not been able to stop anything, although they did play well against the Steelers before the bye. They just let up these massive just gashes to running backs, and it just seems so easy. If you watch that Browns game back where, Kareem Hunt, once Nick Chubb went out with an injury, Kareem Hunt's just running all over them. It's just so many gaps all over the field. But again, maybe they've cleaned some of that up. And we might have seen that against the Steelers in that recent game. Mike Davis, he's priced up. So if McCaffrey were out, Mike Davis in a better matchup than last week. He's 6,800. Feel like nobody plays him. Miles Sanders I think he's leading the all running backs in yards per carry right now. He's been great. But the thing is, against the Cleveland defense, they're pretty good pass rush. Does that just stop the overall Eagles offense from generating anything good at all? We'll see about that. So right around that Miles Sanders range, Nick Chubb, he came back after the injury, did great. Had that late run. Derrick Henry, 8,000 against Baltimore. I'm sure he'll be very low owned, but he does offer a tournament winning ceiling. Not a great matchup, and at 8,000, I feel like it's like a weird range, and I don't think he'll see much ownership. Aaron Jones, 7,200. Maybe people are hesitant to go back to him. Zeke, 6,500. I don't think we've seen him priced that low in quite some time. DeAndre Swift, 6,400 against Carolina. Great matchup. Had a great week. Let's look at. So, yeah, 16 carries, and I think he had 5 targets, 68 reception yards. So that's great for him. Even the week before when he wasn't starting, 5 targets, 33 yards. So 5-4, 5-5 last 4 weeks in targets for him. So that's great. And at 6,400, feels like a fair price. Antonio Gibson down here. Jamal Williams priced up to 5,700 now. Doubt that he sees much interest. Duke Johnson down here at 54. So maybe, you just fire it up with him again. I'm sure some people will. J.D. McKissick, he's just getting a ton of work in the passing game. 15 targets, 7 catches for 43 yards. Alex Smith, that's his bread and butter. Everybody knows that. He likes those short routes, doesn't have the best yards per attempt, but the beneficiary is J.D. McKissick. Sure, maybe McLaurin gets less air yards now, but McKissick is the one, and the tight end, Logan Thomas, they're probably the beneficiaries of that, of the Alex Smith change at quarterback. So Michael Thomas comes in at the highest priced wide receiver, 7,300. Should be a good game environment, dome game. Jameis Winston, like I was saying before, should offer, and I do understand, Drew Brees historically way better quarterback than Jameis Winston, but in terms of fantasy, Winston's probably more conducive to one of these, games where there's just fantasy points going around everywhere on both sides of the ball. Justin Jefferson, he's been playing great. Dallas matchup, he's only 6,000. There's always just the concern, though, Minnesota's, we know it runs through Dalvin Cook. People probably hesitant to play him there. You'd probably rather have someone that gets, all of that's the primary option. Deontay Johnson, Pittsburgh. He had a great week on Sunday, and he's had multiple great games throughout the year. So maybe at his price, he still feels like a value at 5,900, under 6K. Travis Fulgham fell all the way to 5,600 from 6,400 this last week. Marvin Jones, he had a good week. So, looking ahead, I'm sure a lot of these guys, depending on if there's no value right now that sticks out, to me at least, at the running back position where we're going to be penciling the guy in. DeAndre Swift does feel cheap at 6,400. I feel like, his price is expected to be going up as the year goes on the rest of the way. Mark Andrews, highest priced tight end. And it's pretty insane. If you said before the year you're going to get Mark Andrews at 4,900, nobody would have believed you, but he has not been producing at all. Dallas Goedert, I was saying I thought his price wouldn't be higher than 4,200, at least moving into the week, but obviously he only puts up 7 points, so we get him again at a discount at 3,800. Maybe he garners interest again. I honestly have no problem playing him. Logan Thomas, 3,300. So he had, what were his targets? 6 targets his last week, 4 catches, 27 was his long. So guys down here I'm fine playing. I'd probably rather play Goddard. Tanyan had the big week. Hasn't done much since then. So moving. Let's see, the highest priced defense is going to be the Steelers again, 3rd week in a row. They're going against Jake Luton. Maybe they have, one of these weeks it's going to be, I feel like the Steelers are going to put up 22 or 25 points, or we'll have one of these huge games where it feels like if you don't have them, it's really hard to win any type of tournament. So maybe that comes this week, although they are on the road, so maybe that lessens feels like less of a great spot to go with that kind of play. So yeah, overall, these are just kind of my thoughts for this slate coming up. I think to recap, I think the running backs this week, probably a lot of just you plug in a ton of volume at running back. We have Kamara, Cook, and Christian McCaffrey if he plays. Even Aaron Jones down here. But I feel like if I had to guess right away, I feel like the build is probably going to be Kamara, Dalvin, and then DeAndre Swift. I feel like Swift is probably going to end up in most lineups just off of just what I've seen so far without even looking into it. That's just my first impression. So yeah, that's essentially all that I want to get to today. So yeah, just a recap of this past Sunday and then moving ahead looking at week 11. So I'll have more stuff up, some showdown for Thursday, and then some main slate stuff as well coming out as the week progresses. So yeah, feel free to subscribe, like, or comment. Please let me know what you think. And yeah, thanks a lot.